Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of More Than Mortgages. I'm Chad Anderson. We're going to bring in Zach Jones here in just a quick second, but we've talked about this and you've seen the memes. We've made fun of them. We've talked a little bit about the math. Today, we're going to show you a real live example. What is the true cost of waiting? Everybody has massive expectations for 2024, but what is the actual cost in waiting? And is that cost significant to you? Or is it not a big deal and you should quit stressing about whether or not to buy it this time? So let's dig into it and welcome in Zach Jones. How you doing, buddy? Happy New Year.
Chad, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm excited about a strong start to the year. We came out bucking last week, so interesting. It's been an interesting year ahead. Lots of predictions, lots of soothsaying and reading the tea leaves and all of that stuff. So,
Yeah.
interesting topic to cover today with the cost of waiting. I feel like if we were sophisticated broadcast hosts, we would probably have a little clash. Should I stay or should I go bumper music? But here we are.
Here we are. This is, I believe, I think it's episode number 8 for us. So we appreciate everybody who's kind of followed along in the short journey we've had so far with our shows once a week. Make sure that you're following us. You see the right there social media icons. Both of us are on those. I'm This Chad is Real. He is Zach Jones Loans. And we're going to get into a little bit of the actual math. And let's cut to the chase. Let's see black and white numbers, some actual hypothetical scenarios. And just remember to click like, subscribe, and follow on these channels and on all of our social media. If you don't mind, really help us out. So here it is. This is from our good friends at they've kind of rebranded in the last few months, but MBS Highway, now known as Highway, amongst other things. But they have a fantastic tool that we can use, and it's for loan comparison and cost of waiting. So basically, what this does and what we're going to do live here for you is we're going to actually enter in this info as we go. And so you can see it happening, as like I said, as we kind of progress. So we're going to pretend here that we're in Franklin, Tennessee, which is in Williamson County. And so as you go down through here, we can say More Than Mortgages, episode 8, and then purchase price. The average price for Williamson County is higher than this, but we're going to go off of a $400,000 price tag because that could be low in some counties, it could be high in other counties, and it could be right down the middle in some as well. So
It's pretty close to the United States median income too. While our numbers are going to be a little bit skewed for taxes and insurance because they're very low in Tennessee, wink, wink. The median price is about right.
That's part of why the door is wide open around the Tennessee border in a lot of cases because of the 0% state income tax, the extremely affordable property tax. It's a great place to live. So this kind of auto populates and it's pulling this as an effective tax rate from the county based on what you put into the system. So, if you have something, we can grab that for you along with home insurance. Again, estimate if it's a brand new house. I've seen it actually be cheaper than this. If it's an old house, it may be a little bit more than that. We're going to assume no association fees at the moment. And just to not complicate it, I did this during the test run, but I'm going to leave this as no. We're not going to include a standard tax deduction. But if you wanted that scenario ran, we could do that for you. So once we have that, let's hit continue. We'll do MTM episode 8. Loan is the name. Down payment. So let's just assume you get in cheap, 5% down. And we're going to go conventional loan fixed. Interest rate, I'm grabbing this real time off of Mortgage News Daily. National average is at 6.74%. So we're just grabbing that. Pretty much all loans today are going to have some sort of a discount point. Guys, don't sit here and lecture me on APR and stuff. This is not an offer to lend. This is simply based on a educational, informational type purpose. And we're just trying to give you an example so you have an idea here. Mortgage insurance, this is actually high. I don't know where they got the number, but we ran this a couple of times. If you have credit in this scenario, 720 to 39, that's a more accurate indication of what you would see for PMI. Mortgage insurance PMI, that's what it's asking for. Closing costs, I think 12 grand's fair, Zach, 3%. on
Yep.
400,000. We'll go with
Sure.
that. All right, so let's add that loan. Now, here we go. Loans to compare. Well, this is the one we just created. So let's take a look at it. So if we calculate this, this is going to tell us everything about the loan. So here's the term, down payment, rate. APR is going to be off because we don't have everything in here. I need that to quit popping up. It just really wants to be there, I guess. Points, conventional mortgage insurance, expand this. You can see annual principal and interest, total payments for the whole year, year one, just under 30,000. You're going to start out at 2462. When you add in taxes, insurance, and PMI, you're going to be at 2874. So your total annual expense is just under 35,000. Closing costs at 12, total cash to close in this case, looking at $35,800. All right. So that kind of gives us an idea on what you're looking at. And as we keep going, again, these are more just charts kind of showing you and breaking down some different things for you, and what it'll look like. So, again, principal interest, it just kind of isolates those a little bit. Total principal and interest paid over 7 years is what it's looking at here, which is 35,000 versus 175,000. That's a sickening number, right? 7 years, you spend 210 grand, 35,000 it goes to principal. Now, part of that is because rates are a little bit higher today than they were 2 years ago. So,
Right.
a little bit more goes to interest rather than it does to principal. But don't forget the cost of appreciation that you could miss depending on how long you wait, which is what we're going to get into here in just a moment. So again, all these charts, they kind of just reiterate themselves. They break down, how much have you paid over the course of these different year markers, and so forth. And it kind of gives you a balance. 344 is what's left after the 7 year mark, and so forth. So we're not going to assume you made any additional payments. But Zach, what do you tell customers if you say, hey, we're sitting here looking at this and okay, buy a house, talk me into it when 35,000 is going towards the home on 210,000.
Well, I think there's a couple of different things to look at. This aspect of home ownership and the long-term perspective really is the correct perspective on real estate. So, the old saying is that whether you're planting a tree or buying a house, the
Yep.
very best time to do that was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So, um,
So true.
and honestly, I mean, if it's you and me talking, based on our experience here of the last 5 years, the very best time in history to buy a house was 5 years ago because of the amount of gain in such a short period of time related to pandemic and supply and demand, and the supply chain problems. All of those things collated into an extraordinarily hot market,
Yep.
probably never to be repeated again. So, if you were ready to buy 5 years ago and you had a friend or family member who was warning you against that and showing you crash bro YouTube videos saying that the real estate market was going to crash 5 years ago, and you didn't buy, you need to go kick those people in the kneecaps next time you see them, because you lost such an extraordinary opportunity to grow wealth in a very short period of time. So if you didn't do that, water under the bridge, you got to move forward. The second, the old saying continued is that the second best time to buy real estate is now. If you missed it 50 years ago or 5 years ago, then the second best time is now. And that's based on equity appreciation, the fact that you've got an investment that's growing even in this market. Let's call the 2023 numbers nationwide between 5 and 6% appreciation.
Mhm.
Those are the real hard data numbers, regardless of what anybody tells you their impression was on the internet or what your brother-in-law said at the family reunion. It was between 5 and 6% nationally. So you've got an investment that's growing at a value, an invested value of $400,000 at 5%. That's a $20,000 gain over the last 12 months. You didn't invest $400,000. You invested what was it, 35,008 total
Yep.
cash to close, and you made 20 on that
Yeah.
in terms of real value in the property. So you if you're concerned solely about housing cost, I can tell you without dodging the question at all, renting something small and meager and affordable is going to be better than buying a house if you're solely concerned about your monthly budget. But if you're concerned about long-term wealth building, then you really need to seriously take a look at a calculator like this that puts the investment into perspective over a long period of time. And you also, man, this is one of the most frightening aspects of it, Chad, is that look way down the road for people who decide that renting is a lifestyle and it's going to be a long-term life choice. I looked these numbers up about 6 months ago, and the average rent in the United States is about equal to the average Social Security income in the United States. So if renting is a lifestyle, you better have another plan for roommates or moving in with your kids or something else when you decide to retire, because your entire income, if you're not a saver, and most people who are renting lifestyle are not in the investment and savings realm,
Yeah.
your entire income is going to be taken up with rent if things continue the way that they are. And I don't think that we've probably seen much of a shift in those numbers, Social Security versus average rent, over the last 40 years. It's a scary prospect.
It is. It's funny how you lay a lot of that out because it's so accurate and true. And you mentioned, well, if somebody told you not to buy 5 years ago because of some outdated, archaic theory or idea, or because that's how it was done in the 1960s, you mentioned kicking in the kneecaps. I'd probably aim about a foot higher if I were you. But
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. All right, so let's go back and look. Cost of waiting. So we calculated on the loan itself, give you an idea of what it looks like, what things look like down the road. Now, to be fair, that's not entirely accurate, because if rates do come down as we're anticipating, you wouldn't have had that loan for 7 years. Okay, so again, that's an example, information only, just gives you the idea. Okay, so it's not in 7 years, because again, you would have refinanced by that point. But let's look at the cost of waiting. Okay, so if we click this, and then this brings up this lovely little grid. And so here you go. If we look at this, um, property value, and we have it going up 4%, 4%, going up 8% here, 12% jump. So if you look at these, okay, and this is pulling from the county. This isn't like Chad went in and put these numbers in. This is pulling from data here. Okay. So if we're looking at this, and by the way, when you're looking at something, so for example, 419,429 divided by 416,726, somebody may be looking at this number and going, it's not going to go up 12% in 1 year. Like, no, no, no. That's how much it's gone up over the time since you've bought the home. So keep that
That's
in
a
mind.
cumulative appreciation over a 3-year period. So more like a 4% average, right?
Yeah, correct. That's exactly right. So that's one. All right. This is not a from year 2 to year 3. This is in 3 years where you're going to be. Okay. And again, especially in Tennessee and in other markets where you guys are so thoughtful and friendly enough to watch and give us feedback on this show and this channel, you know, those rates have been much, much higher because of the way things rapidly accelerate because of the desire to live here. Top 5 states, I think it was, right? Texas, Florida, the Carolinas, and then Tennessee,
Kind of always.
somewhere in
It's
there.
going to be right now. The trend for many years has been low tax, high job. So the
Yeah.
opportunities are really there's a very robust movement in the southeast to include Texas, maybe as a southwest, but and I like to make the comparison with Texas, even though I'm a native Texan. Texan has nothing on us as far as property taxes are concerned. They're 4, 5,
And
6 times as high in
and
many of the
weather.
areas.
Weather in the South and the Southeast. Yes, we still have cold snaps, but it's nothing compared to other parts of the country
Right.
where cost of living is not as favorable.
Right.
So again, you keep going through. This is what your property value would be over, again, 3 years. This is 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So in 3 years, this is what it would be. If you waited a year, for almost 420, call it. So your loan amount goes up, right? So now you're financing more with the, oh, I'm going to wait. Okay, well, now you're financing more. The down payment slowly creeps up. The interest rates you can see are dropping and they're forecasting, and they're probably being a little conservative because 2, 3 years, maybe it does get back down into the fours at some point. But I like
Right.
this because it's just a conservative estimate.
Right.
We keep everything else similar. The PMI increases slightly because it's based off your loan amount. So that's why that increases some. Your annual principal and interest numbers, your monthly principal and interest numbers. And you can see where, like, hey, here's a lower rate, right? Okay. So this is something I want to bring up because I know someone's going to say, well, yeah, look, my payment's lower right here. It's 100 and what is that? $37 lower. After year one, I'm going to wait. Why would I not wait? Here's why. You're paying 20,000 more for the house. So guess what? You could just refinance. You don't, there's nothing that says you can't refi this.
Yeah.
So if this is the rate and this is why the payment is lower, well, keep this number and just refi in year one. That's the math and the visual that we try to show everyone is people get too locked in on this row right here. They get so locked in on that row that they lose sight of this row. And this is your true dollars and cents, guys. This is it. Because no matter how high this gets, okay, this right here can come in and be part of these rates. These loan amounts can follow along with these rates. These purchase prices cannot follow with those rates.
Right. Right.
So,
And in the meantime, you got to live somewhere. So you're spending money on rent,
yeah, you're still
and
living, you're still doing things.
you're
Correct.
losing that pay down on the principal balance the whole time that you're waiting. So that's one of the things that I really like about this calculator is it doesn't just do a kind of a blanket apples to apples comparison. It really starts stacking up the compounding factors that go into the true cost of waiting over time.
Well, and here it is. This is what you kind of, if you saw the
Perfect.
thumbnail and clicked on this video, this is what you've been waiting for. So sorry it took 18 minutes to get here, but here's where we are. So, cost of waiting analysis. If you look at the 6 month, the 1 year, the 2 year, the 3 year, it shows you the payment difference. It recognizes that, hey, your payment might be a little less, a little less. Okay, now a little more. It recognizes some different things, but then it also factors in what people fail to factor in, and that is the loss in property appreciation and your amortization. So, simply put, based on the calculator we've put in here, and rates dropping from today's 674 to 575. Okay. Cost of waiting 18,000, a year 23,000, 2 years 43,000, 3 years $63,000. And again, guys, this is just more charts at this point, but this right here is the meat of it. This is also, again, at 4% appreciation, little over 4. Okay. This is
Very
without
conservative.
yes, this is without
Super
multiple
conservative.
bids. This is without you having to pay over ask price.
Right.
This is without you paying the price listed, but maybe the market hasn't caught up, but you still have to pay it, but then it doesn't appraise, and now you have to come out of pocket for the gap. Like, there are other things that this calculator just can't always assume because it's going to fluctuate based on market tendencies, and different
Right.
states and regions are going to have different markets. But just simply put, if you put all things equal on the table, I think this is what realtors and loan officers are simply trying to get across to you right here. So when you see those memes and jokes and things on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, uh, Zach had spelled out in black and white right here. Like, this is what everybody's talking about.
This is what creates the urgency from a mathematical perspective. You take all of the emotion out of it and all the fear and all of the influence from friends and family, and you look at the math really demands urgency, action, at least, at the very least, attention. And,
Yeah.
one of the things here, because of the way this calculator works, let's just say that right now you were able to get seller paid closing costs for those $12,000 as opposed to what might happen in a spring or a summer market when there's a lot more competition for the same house and you don't get the $12,000 paid. That $12,000, the way this calculator works, goes exactly to this bottom line. So the total cost of waiting in the first 6 months jumps to $30,000
Yeah.
because you have to add that 12,000 to the 18,000. So they're important numbers because you kind of have to take a look at that and say, well, can I afford to lose $18,000 to $30,000 over the next 6 months to as I'm waiting to see what happens? Isn't that like the default excuse station to go to? It's like, no, I'm just going to pump the brakes a little bit and wait and see what happens.
Yep. It
Mm,
is. So here's, to me, I can really simplify it for people because the numbers are here. I didn't make this calculator. So the numbers are right here. If you think rates are going to fall, then you should buy if you're in the market to and you can afford it. But if you think rates are going to fall, you should buy because this is what's happening.
right.
The appreciation, rates dipping, more competition. This is what it's going to cost you. If you firmly believe they aren't, and that's your conviction, that's okay. And then you just live with the choice if you're wrong. We're going to have to eat so much crow if we're wrong. Like, I've thought about that a little bit. I'm like, in a year, in a year, rates are still 7, you know. You know how many people are going to be upset at the housing industry experts because nothing will have changed? Oh yeah, I have some crazy reactions on my camera that make balloons appear somehow. Uh, man, it's a
Celebratory
new
balloons
camera.
is what I saw.
Yeah, new camera. I don't know. I hope the balloons don't pop is the key. So that's what's going to be funny though, is you really do have to just in your mind pick a direction and go for it and be prepared for either reaping the rewards or thinking, man, I wish I had done this previously.
Right.
And only the future will tell us if we're right or wrong today. There's no way to know 100%. We're doing best educated guesses based on our data and experience and listening to other experts and so forth. But if you think they're going to drop, which I think a lot of people do, this is what you're looking at. So, any final thoughts, Zach?
That about sums it up, Chad. I just love the data driven math of this perspective on the market because
Yeah,
the math doesn't lie, and it's a very complete analysis of the math. And if you wanted to go dig even a little bit deeper, we can go into the tax piece of it and talk about potential
good.
tax deductions. That's something that we didn't even dig into because it's a little bit more complicated, but it
Right.
accentuates and amplifies the numbers that we're already talking about in terms of savings, because there is that's kind of a little silver lining to the dark cloud of higher interest rate is that you get some tax savings if you're in a position to itemize. So completely different video, maybe way down the road.
Yep. 100%. So, all right, guys, that'll do it for us. Like I said, you see the social media icons up there in the corner: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Make sure you follow along. This Chad is real and Zach Jones Loans. Like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell, all those good things. Let us know. Also, I love the comments or the DMs, which seems to be the more popular way of reaching out to us. Whether or not you're in the market, if you like the math, if you have a reason to contradict the math, or just want to have a discussion about it. But
And
appreciate
what
all
you
of
want to
you.
hear about in future
Yeah,
episodes too. We're
that's
looking for
right.
that.
Because in our next one, we're going to talk about the blended rate on, maybe you got a good rate today on mortgages, but what are you going to have and what do you really have when you start factoring in your credit card debt and your
Right.
car loans and your consolidation loans that you've already tried to do and your HELOCs and things like that? We're going to talk about what your true rate is that you have for your personal family budget. So we'll hit on that next week. For Zach Jones, Chad Anderson, y'all have a great rest of your day.